everyone, I hope this video isn't too dark. I'm filming this late. I am so sorry that I have not posted anything in a couple of weeks. I kind of went through a big reading slump this last week, and also I was going to film yesterday and then I got really sick, and it's just been one thing after another. Work has been crazy. It's just been a very rough couple of weeks, but I am back now, and I have a couple of videos that I'm planning on getting out there in the next day or two. So this particular video is going to be my wrap up for the last couple of weeks, and also I did reorganize all of my bookshelves, so you will see that hot mess. That was kind of a crazy process and ended up taking me like 3 days to complete because I got sick right in the middle of doing it. I look like a hot mess whenever I was filming the first part of this because I was just getting sick. I didn't realize how bad I was feeling while I was working on this. But I am so glad that I redid my bookshelves. They really needed it. I keep buying books, and just alphabetizing the author just doesn't work for me with how often I get new books in. It wasn't working. So I just went back and did what I wanted to do, and so you will see that very soon. But I want to go ahead and just really quickly talk about the books that I have been reading for the last couple of weeks. I know that the last time I talked to you guys about books, I had just finished up with the Smutathon, and the last book I talked to you about was Bad Influence. Now, I mentioned I was going to immediately pick up Us by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy, and I did, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It was a beautiful book. This is the duet for him and Us, and this follows Jamie and Wes, which is the same characters from the first book, and now that they're in a relationship, but they're still not out to the world yet. They're both kind of closeted, and the main reason why is because Wes is a famous hockey player, and he doesn't want the world to know yet. It's his rookie season. He's doing very well, and he doesn't want that to overshadow what he actually is doing in his career. And Jamie understands that, but Jamie goes through some really tough things in this book, and it's very heartbreaking, but at the same time it is so good, and I loved it. I love this book. So I enjoyed Us so much that I immediately picked up Good Boy by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. This is a part of the Him and Us world. It is a new series. It's the Wags, and it follows Jamie's sister Jess and the teammate who is super annoying in book 2, who I absolutely loved in book 2, and his name was Blake. That's right. So Blake and Jess kind of had a really quick hookup in the second book, and you could kind of tell that they hooked up. It wasn't very explicit or anything, but they did hook up, and now Jess is having to plan the wedding for a couple. I don't want to give too much away, but she plans a wedding, and this is her story. Unfortunately, I didn't connect with this one. I gave it 3.5 stars. I really loved Blake in the second book, in Us, but I was hoping for more depth out of him in his own storyline, and even whenever it was his parts, in the book where it comes from his point of view, he was still kind of a beefcake. He wasn't very smart, and he didn't have a whole lot of deep thoughts, and it really kind of frustrated me because I was literally just reading a book about a beefcake. And Jess really annoyed me so bad. I couldn't stand her, so gave it 3.5 stars. The next book I want to talk to you about is Trick Play by Eden Finley. I read Fake Out during Smutathon, and I loved it. It is a male-male romance, and so I immediately wanted to read more of this world. And she has, I believe, 4 books out in this series, and so I picked up Trick Play, which is the second book. It is about Noah and Matt. They were both introduced in the first book. Noah is kind of a playboy. He's best friends with one of the guys in the first book. And Matt is a famous, I believe he's a football player. And he is kind of an ex-fling of the other guy in the first book. And so it is their fake dating love story, and I enjoyed it, but I found Matt to be really annoying. Like he really got on my nerves a lot. So I really enjoyed it, but I didn't absolutely love this book as much as I loved the previous one. I gave it 3.5 stars as well. Apparently I just like 3.5 stars because that's what I'm giving everything. So anyway, yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't my favorite. The next book I have to talk to you about that I read was Credence by Penelope Douglas. So, of course, everybody is talking about this. I thought about doing a vlog, doing my thoughts and everything, but there has already been so much of that there's just literally no point because my thoughts are basically like everybody else's. I thought this book was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I did have some problems with it. I wasn't a huge fan of her sleeping with all 3 guys. I don't think that's really a spoiler alert, but at this point, like, I think everybody knows what this story is about. It's about a girl who whose family has died. She moves out to the country with a long-lost uncle and 2 cousins, and it's just her alone along with these 3 guys. I had a feeling, I knew basically from the start who she was going to choose. I just had a feeling that it was him. And then it really confused me during the 38% mark because she ends up sleeping with another guy first. And that really confused me. And I thought, well, wow, I really didn't expect her to choose the older guy. And then it's like their love story. And then it moves on to the next one and then the next one. My major problem with this book is that there was, okay, because she slept with all 3 guys and because of the relationship between those 3 guys, whenever she finally chooses the one that she wants to be with, there's not really much discussion about the fact that she slept with these other 2 guys. Like, it's kind of just brushed over. It's glossed over, and there's not really enough confrontation or talk about it to understanding how they got from her sleeping with them to sleeping with just one person, and there wasn't enough discussion on that. Like, you just don't gloss over something that big and traumatic for that guy and just like, oh yeah, now we have a happily ever after. Like, there's not a happily ever after when there's no discussion on how he became okay with the fact that he slept with, anyway. So I had a problem with that part of it. I just felt like this book was a little rushed at the end. I also didn't think that there was anywhere near enough conversation and relationship between her and the hero. In general, like, there was so much buildup of the other relationships in this book that it was not very well done in the fact that we didn't really get to know the hero enough. Otherwise, it is a Penelope Douglas book. The writing was beautiful. The story was really good. The sex scenes were hotter than any other book I've read ever, including Priest, and that is saying something. Like, these are such, like, I'll go back and just read the sex scenes because they're that good. But overall story, 4 stars. After reading Credence, I went ahead and picked up Deke, or Deck, I think it's Deke, by Eden Finley. This is the 3rd book in the Fake Boyfriend series by Eden Finley, and this one was about Ollie and Lennon. Lennon is a sports reporter. Ollie is a NHL hockey player, and you also kind of get little bits and pieces from the other 2 relationships in the past book, so I really enjoyed that part of it. I thought the story was sugary sweet and cute, not a lot of unnecessary drama or angst, and I really appreciated that. I really liked this story, and I gave it 4 stars. Okay, so after that, I will say I kind of went on for me anyway, a reading slump where there was actually 2 or 3 days in between that I was not reading any book, and it's lasted for like the last week and a half, and so I am ready to get back into reading. I went ahead, I listened to a lot of audiobooks because I was just doing other things and I just didn't really feel like reading. So the next book I picked up was the audiobook for Strictly Off Limits by Jessica Hawkins, and this book is super short. It's like 2.5 hour audiobook. It is about a girl who goes to work in the office of her father's best friend. And it is, like I said, it's super short. I love the fact that this was not insta-love. I love the fact that it was very steamy. I gave it 3.5 stars, and that's for one reason only, and that there was a couple of moments that I felt had some questionable consent in it. Like, we know we're inside the main character's mind, so we kind of understand that it's consensual, but there wasn't very many cues, and there was a few things that kind of made me go, well, that's not really consent. So that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. Overall, this book was a very good quick listen. It is on the Audible Escape package, and I do recommend it. I thought it was a cute little story, especially if you want something really quick to get your book count up. Okay, so with the last book, Jessica Hawkins, and also the next book I'm going to be talking about by Julie Johnson, I have started on my book bonanza list. I am trying really hard to pick up either Kindle Unlimited books or Audible Escape books from authors that are going to be at book bonanza that I have never read yet. I'm wanting to try to read as many authors as I can. That way, if I do end up meeting them, I'm able to at least discuss a book that I've read by them. So I'm really sticking to my book bonanza list for the next like 6 or 7, 8 months, trying to get as much of that done before August as I can. So the next book I did read is Not You, It's Me. This was by Julie Johnson, and I gave this one 3.5 stars as well. Apparently I just love 3.5 stars. So this book is about Gemma and Chase, and this book has one of the cutest meet cutes in it. So it is basically about a girl who wins a couple of tickets to a big sporting event. And I think it's basketball, but I'm not certain. So she gets really excited because she wants to take her boyfriend, her boyfriend is kind of an asshole. Like, you know it from the beginning, but she wants to take him because she thinks that if this doesn't work out, then they're just done. So she's trying it in her like last ditch effort. So she gets there, the guy's an asshole, he's on the phone the whole time, he's treating her like crap, and then all of a sudden the kiss cam comes on, and of course points to her and this guy, and he's on the phone being a jerk the whole time, like ignoring her, and she's like super embarrassed because she's on the Jumbotron, and she's like kind of going, what can you do, you know, this guy's an asshole, and so of course, the guy who's sitting next to her is gorgeous and nice looking, and he feels bad for what's going on, and so he decides to kiss her. And everybody freaks out because apparently this guy is some big shot. She has no clue who he is, and it ends up being the owner of the team that does this. So it ends up being like this huge story that's all over the news. And so it starts out really cute, and it starts out like almost like a fantasy of what would happen, you know, whenever you see those like ridiculous stories. And most of them are like, I know that they're put on by the arena to make up, you know, news, and haha, it's funny because the girl gets, you know, stood up. But it started out like a fantasy of that, like her end up getting with this guy who's a lot better looking than the guy she came with and richer, and you know, and I thought, wow, that's a neat storyline. I've never seen that in a book. So it starts out really cute, but then it quickly like gets cray-cray, like really cray-cray. So it starts out with him having like this crazy uncle who wants revenge against him, and then it ends up with her ex-boyfriend who didn't really care for her anyway, like was cheating on her in her apartment with some other chick. But he all of a sudden decides to go crazy and trash her apartment and threaten her, and there was this scene at the end where the crazy uncle like has a associate that tried to run her off the road, and I mean, just it went crazy. And so I gave it 3.5 stars. It was okay, but not that great. So anyway, that is all the books that I have read. I'm going to be doing a book haul and a book unhaul in the next video. And as soon as I'm able to get all of that stuff sorted away, then I'm going to put my last few books on here and I will show you my new bookshelves. So stay tuned for that at the end of this. So I recently redid all my bookshelves, and I did them in alphabetical order with author's last name, trying to find some better organization. That was like 2 months ago or so, and unfortunately that method just is not working for me. The main reason why is because I order so many books all the time, and I am constantly getting in new books. And right now I just have like one layer of shelves, and every one of them are just like completely stocked full. So I'm actually gonna have to start like double layering all of my bookshelves. So every time I get a new book, I have to reorganize and try to like fit it in, and it's just not working. So I have decided to just kind of go back to doing like what I want to do, I guess. And that's going to be like the authors that I like love and have, like I'll do them on one shelf, like my vampires and paranormal, I'll have that kind of all together, and then I'll go down to all of my contemporary romances and do it by the same author, but not necessarily in order, mainly just by how I want to do it. And now it's time for my new bookshelf tour.